Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a new edition of ZF Today's Opening Bell, or how we call it in Romania, ZF Deschiderea Bursieră de astăzi. We are discussing with Giorgi Shagidze, the CEO of maib, the biggest bank in the Republic of Moldova. Giorgi, hello, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Liviu. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting me.
You have a big event coming up next week, precisely on 13th of September, in partnership with the Bucharest Stock Exchange. I saw there that the Prime Minister of Romania will be present, the Prime Minister of the Republic will be present, Wood will be present, the one of the biggest brokers of the Bucharest Stock Exchange. How come? What is this event about? And as a preview to our listeners, to our viewers, maib is preparing the listing. We will hear more information from Giorgi in the next minutes. So the biggest event of the autumn next week, 13 September. How come maib is on this event?
Indeed. Thanks for the question. So we have this very exciting event next week. We call it Moldova-Romania Capital Bridges, which will be, as you said, opened by the Prime Minister of Romania and Prime Minister of Moldova, as well as President of EBRD. We have three panels. One is a panel dedicated to Moldova into EU. The second panel is about macro, and the third panel is about companies in Moldova. So we want to base, and this event we are arranging it, and we are doing it with Bucharest Stock Exchange and Woods & Company, as you said. We would like to use this opportunity and use this event and present to potential investor and the market players about the development in Moldova, future of Moldova, developments in macro in Moldova, and the reasons why investors should be considering investing in Moldova and investing in Moldovan companies. So this is a very crucial event, a milestone in our long-term plan.
Why should investors come in Moldova? What does Moldova have to offer to investors, let's say?
There are many factors, but I think I would start with EU integration, and this is big. And EU integration, especially from the recent decision of EU to accept Moldova as the candidate for the EU. So this is when this will have a big impact to Moldovan economy and Moldovan political reality. And if you think about the living standards, if you think about the business and economy, of course, this has a huge impact. If you think about the Moldovan trade, for today, 60% of the trade goes to EU. About 60% of remittances come from EU. There is an association agreement, visa-free agreement. The free trade agreement with EU plus the again candidate status of Moldova. And when small country becomes part of when small country has the prospect to become part of this very powerful economic union, of course there will be increase in the living standard. So this is the one area. The other one, which is important in the country, it's a small country with very strong agro, and you would be surprised the IT sector as well, which is where we are operating, and this is the peri industry. There are good opportunities to invest in Moldova. So I represent the banking. Banking in Moldova has a very low penetration. We measure it with loan to GDP value. So loan to GDP in Moldova is about 23-24%. So even with current GDP, there is a good opportunity to grow. There are banks with good capital levels, good liquidity levels, and the room for growth. So combination of these factors, of course, makes us very interesting to consider for the investment.
Giorgi, before we continue with the profile of maib, I have let's say a curiosity, because what we are seeing in Romania right now is a big opportunity driven by the migration of the people from the war zone, so Ukrainians and as well as companies from Ukraine and from Russia. And we are discussing this opportunity because right now, if we are to go and get some companies and attract some investors, this is the perfect time nowadays. Is the same trend in the Moldova? Do you see the same trend in the banking sector? Are there more people who get more loans, let's say, for developing new companies, new SMEs?
Well, I think we'll discuss about the SME loans when we speak about them, about our bank. But the low penetration that I mentioned is very important when we think about the future. Low penetration, when you have the starting level very low, obviously gives you opportunity to grow quite fast. And in our case, the system has been growing quite rapidly. I wouldn't say that because of the because of the war in Ukraine, we have bigger growth opportunity. In fact, the war in Ukraine creates pressure on the prices, inflation, and economy, which is not favorable from the perspective of the loans. But given the loan penetration and our strong positions in the capital reserves and the liquidity, we manage this crisis quite confidently, and we continue investment in all the areas that will upgrade our capabilities to ensure that after this crisis is over, we are even stronger and we are even better positioned on the local market.
And now, Giorgi, for investors' delights, let's talk about numbers. Assets under management for my market share, and of course, after that, if you can share some details about the listing, who will sell shares if we are talking about IPO, the shareholder structure for maib, and I have more questions after numbers.
Of course, we are from the perspective of market share. I think we should use the loans because that represent better the market like Moldova. We are about 35% in market share. So and the second bank in the country is about 20%. So there is a gap between the number one and number two player. From the perspective of dollar numbers, we are about $200 million in assets and about $330 million in equity. So that's where we stand right now. We grow quite rapidly. Last year, our growth was about 20-25%. We diversify across the segments. Our growth in SME and business banking was about 4 percentage points. When we speak about the market share, we grew market share with 4 percentage point in SME in business banking. Our returns that we disclosed last quarter was about 17.4% return on equity. Quarter one was 18% plus return on equity. So basically, we are strengthening our position from the competitiveness perspective. We are growing, we are profitable, we have a very strong balance sheet with a strong capital adequacy and liquidity numbers. And I need to once again highlight the fact that Moldova going towards European Union has lots of upside from the economic perspective, and banking sector having low penetration has lots of room for further growth. So taking all this together, we have a good prospects for maib's future.
What can you tell us about the listing? Do you intend to bring maib on the Bucharest Stock Exchange, or a dual listing, perhaps in Bucharest and some other stock exchange?
We've taken decision to list in Bucharest. This decision is subject to this shareholder and respective regulatory approvals in the country. When we will be obtaining when the time comes, but we have explored other markets as well, and I'm happy to say that Bucharest, we are quite confident that Bucharest fits us quite well. And I guess it's very important to show not only the financial side of maib, but the transformation that we are going through. So I hope I will have opportunity to speak about that as well.
You know, on this subject, do you have brokers hired for the listing process, and how will this process work? Will the shareholders sell from their shares, or will there be a capital increase?
We haven't officially selected the brokers, even though we very closely work with Woods, for example. And we have not officially launched the IPO preparation process. So it's a little bit early for me to tell you the size of the IPO and then the selling, especially because of the uncertainties in the region, which may mean that we need to do the two-step IPO process. So this is a little bit premature, but I think we are quite well aware about the market development, and we already started to operate like the listed company, which would imply that we are quite close to the process.
So the preparations are there. The intention is there. Any estimated time of listing? Perhaps this year, first quarter next year.
This year is a little bit challenging.
Giorgi, tell us about the shareholder structure of maib. Who is the biggest shareholder?
So we have a group of 3 investors: EBRD, which you would be familiar, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development; Horizon Capital, and which is the US firm, and they have representative in the region; and Invalda, which is a Lithuanian company. These three investors have about 40% of maib. Then we have about 13 individuals who have consolidated position of up to 15%, and the rest of the shares belong to many individuals. It's quite well spread. We have up to 3,000 shareholders. This is important, and this is very good question, because this means that when we are listed, these 3,000 individuals already hold these shares, so there will be some liquidity. We cannot guarantee who will sell and who will not, but given the fact that the investors are 3,000, there will be many sellers, there will be turnover.
You've joined maib in February 2021, so right after the let's say the COVID crisis. But from what we are seeing in the last 12 months, we are seeing this inflation. So prices that we haven't seen here in Romania from at least I think for at least 20 years back in on the other side of the ocean for like 40 years. How is the situation in Moldova, and how does the inflation impact the bonds in my portfolio? Because right now we are seeing some let's say negative yields for investors who have their money in bonds, basically in bonds. Yes. How is the situation in Moldova?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the inflation in Moldova is quite high. It is 30+%, and the base rate is also has been increased, and it is about 21%. The good news is that the last time the central bank has revised the base rate, they said that unless something new happens, they consider it to be the peak from the base rate perspective. I think this is clearly a challenge in the region and in the country. Of course, when we have such development, we are revising the underwriting criteria for credit. When we give the new loans, of course, we think about the current situation. We are also actively engaging with the customers who want to change the terms on individual basis. But then again, given the low penetration, low leverage of our customers, we are and the buffers that we have created in capital and in provisions, we are very confidently continuing managing through this crisis, and the NPL level actually have even decreased. If you think about the total NPLs, have even decreased during this year. We see a little bit of pickup of the NPLs in unsecured loans, but we have a good improvement NPL across the other loans. So basically, we are managing confidently, and I'm sure this is the situation, and every other bank in the broader region in Europe or in the US are facing. Of course, the scale is different with us having higher inflation, but the low penetration helped us to be very confident.
I've got a couple more questions, Giorgi, about loans and deposits. What's the situation of maib, let's say, in the first half of the year?
So this is very good question. So one of the things which is important to say about Moldovan banking sector, it has very strong liquidity ratios and very strong loan to deposit ratios. So deposits are much more than the loans. In the system, it is about 60 to 65, 67%, depending on the calculation method and the period. Now, during the, let's say the crisis, if you take the very first 2 months, when there was a huge emotional factor and uncertainty, and the people facing lots of uncertainties about the Russia's next move, we did have pressure on our deposits in the branches. However, we were very confident from a large liquidity buffers perspective, and this situation started to very shortly kind of calm down. People started to calm down, and then in about 1 or 2 months, it reached the peak, and it then started to stabilize. Now we already started to grow in deposits quite actively, and that basically that is the same for local currency deposits and the foreign currency deposits. So yes, during the first 2 months there was a pressure on deposit, but given our high buffers, we went quite smoothly through that. But it's already behind.
And let's say currency-wise, apart from the Moldovan currency, what are the most demanded loans? Euros, American dollars, or even RONs, Romanian leu?
If you think about the retail banking, absolute majority, like 99% plus, it's lei, it's Moldovan lei, and it's good when we think about the risk management perspective. Even though we launched now the product for our diaspora, you may know that about 1 million Moldovans live outside of Moldova, so that basic, and we want to serve them. We want to become their home bank, and then we started to issue the loans only for them, specifically in euro and in dollar where relevant. If you think about corporate, that depends, because the people do export and they prefer the foreign currency. So it is lei, euro, and dollar in this ranking, but lei is absolute majority in retail.
It's the same on deposits. And what is the interest rate on let's say a Moldovan lei deposit? Do I get 5%, 6% a year?
So you can get more. The same. It is in the same. I mean, we don't have open currency position, right? So we match deposit in dollar, a loan in dollar. So we don't take this risk. So if you come and open a deposit today in lei, you can get 14% plus. But if you think about 1 year ago, you would be getting about 3.5 to 5%. Again, the interest rate or the base rate went to 21%, and inflation is 30%. Good news is that many of our loans are floating, so we are able to transfer part of this cost. Loan
I'm
yield,
sorry, you said 14%?
1 year term deposit, 14, 1-4.
Okay, on
In
inflation.
local currency. Inflation is high, it's 30% plus, 30%.
Okay.
But if you open it in dollar, that you will get less than 1%. If you open it in euro, you will get around 0.5%. I mean the 1 year term deposit.
Giorgi, we are approaching the end of our discussion. What message do you have for possible investors who are watching our discussion and who want to invest in maib, starting, let's say, next year, when things will be a bit more calmer, let's say, and you will already have a broker for the listing on Bucharest Stock Exchange? What is your message? And as well as, if you are to look at the Romanian banking sector, what are the biggest flaws and the biggest advantages compared with the Moldovan banking sector?
Of course, we talked about the macro picture and why investors should be considering the investment in Moldova. We talked about the banking sector, whereby, as I said, it's quite underpenetrated, and well capitalized, well regulated, and with strong liquidity. So if you come from the top down, but I think in 2 words I will tell how we are positioned, right? So as I said, we are by far the largest bank in the country across all the segments and products. We are going through huge transformation with lots of initiatives, and these initiatives can be grouped into 4 areas. Number 1, what we are doing is that we are ensuring that we put the customer in the center of everything we do. We have revised our branch operating model. We are revising our digital channels, our relationship model, especially our corporate culture, to ensure that the customer is in the center, and everything we do in the bank, basically we keep how this will affect the customer. So you can see maib going agile sign, I think it's here. So that means that we are transforming from our traditional hierarchical structure to new, more agile culture, whereby we want to be close to customers and delegate the decision power to the ones that are very close to customer and have customer insight. So this is big change, customer in the center. The second one is digital, and we are the largest in digital front. In digital, we are adding other features, the Face ID, the new user experience. We launched not only the digital traditional mobile banking products, but also the so-called ecosystems and marketplaces, whereby when the customer want to do something in digital world or digital space in Moldova, we are next to it. And the next one, which is important, we want to serve diaspora, right? So 1 million Moldovans have European Union citizenship. They work all over Europe. we want to go and serve them with the digital channels. So this is important to think about the bank itself. We are growing financial numbers, we said, but strategically, this is how we are positioned.
And the last question about what if you have any information about what are the advantages of the Romanian banking sector and the flaws? If you are envy on the Romanian banking sector.
Well, listen, Romanian banking sector is more developed than Moldovan banking sector, right? So that would be across all the products and on the channels. I think we have an ambition to start with the digital and aspire to the best in class. So we want our digital to be very competitive, not in Romania only, not against the Romanian banking sector, but the best in class banks as well. So, for example, we go and want to see the branches and compare and get the cutting edge knowledge from ING Amsterdam or ING Direct. And we are comparing our app with the best in class apps. So today, Romanian banking sector is more developed than Moldovan banking sector, pretty much across everything. But our aspiration and target is to go towards the best in class. That applies to our branches, customer relationship model, and digital offers and services. Have I answered the question on Romania?
Yes, but next week when we will meet, I will do a follow-up question regarding the listing and this comparison between the Romanian banking sector and the Moldovan banking sector. You've seen and you've heard it here first. The biggest bank in the Republic is preparing to list on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. Is preparing, and the Republic is preparing to attract new investors. In what is the most opportunistic time for let's say careers. Giorgi Shagidze, the Chief Executive Officer of maib, the biggest bank in the Republic of Moldova, was with us today. Thank you very much for the discussion and for making time to participate at our show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
And I'm looking forward to meeting you next week at the event. Until then, for the investors, have a great and profitable days. Thank you.
Știu ce spun.
What's news in your life?
Mi-au crescut arii, avem aripi, incomodăm, dar zburăm.
Știu ce te interesează.
Ucraina trece la atac. Armata ucraineană a spart linia de apărare cu care rușii încercuiseră regiunea Kherson.
Ne bucurăm un pic cam repede, nu au reușit nimic.
Știu cum să te fac curios.
Leo DiCaprio evită să-și aleagă iubite mai mari de 25 de ani.
La 47 de ani, ce poți să vorbești cu o puștoaică de 20 de ani?
Nu pot să-l critic pe Leo. Știu cum să te emoționezi.
Rata analfabetismului funcțional depășește 40%. Suntem la coada Uniunii Europene.
Știu să conving.
După 2 luni de lucrări, pasajul Unirii s-a redeschis. Proiectanții lucrărilor s-au gândit să decoreze pasajul cu flori. Dacă tot investim niște bani, hai să o facem cu cap. Niște flori pe un perete? Ți se pare normal?
Știu să câștig.
2 puncte, asta e victorie, măi.
Știu, deci știi.